The Stoic truth about wealth is that it is never measured by the number of coins a man holds in his hand, but by the strength of his character and the clarity of his soul. And no figure embodies this truth more powerfully than Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, who ruled an empire, yet reminded himself every single day not to be ruled by gold or ambition. Picture the grand halls of imperial Rome, alive with voices and ambition. Senators in flowing robes debate laws while merchants spread out exotic fabrics and rare spices on wooden stalls. Soldiers march back from conquest, their arms heavy with spoils, their eyes lit with pride. Everywhere you look is the pursuit of wealth, as if silver, silk, and land could secure happiness forever. Yet if you leave behind the marble columns and step into the dim light of a military tent, you find Marcus Aurelius bent over a small wax tablet. The emperor of Rome, a man with near limitless resources, writes not of conquest or treasure, but of humility, restraint, and discipline. He reminds himself that true wealth is not found in palaces or possessions, but in the mastery of his own mind. Here is the paradox that Marcus understood better than most: that a man can sit on a throne surrounded by treasures and still live in poverty if he is enslaved by desire, while another man may live simply and possess more than kings if he governs his soul with discipline. The Stoics saw wealth as what they called an indifferent, something neither inherently good nor inherently bad, but dangerous if allowed to control the heart. Seneca, one of the richest men in Rome, warned again and again that luxury corrupts more deeply than poverty. Poverty teaches restraint through necessity, but luxury whispers dependence. It tells the soul that comfort is required, that pleasure is owed, and that without fine possessions, life loses meaning. Marcus Aurelius absorbed these lessons and turned them inward. In his meditations, written not for an audience, but for himself, he reminds his own mind that fortune can strip away title, power, and possessions in an instant. A fire could consume estates, a rebellion could topple governments, a twist of fate could leave even emperors exposed. The only possession truly ours, he wrote, is our reasoned choice, our disciplined will, the inner fortress no thief can breach. Walk with me through the bustling markets of Rome, the clang of coins, the shouts of bargains, the cries of slaves auctioned to the highest bidder. Everyone chases permanence, yet everything they hold is slipping like sand through fingers. Marcus urged himself to see wealth as smoke, drifting and vanishing no matter how tightly one tries to grasp it. He knew emperors before him had been praised and worshipped for their riches, but now they lay in dust, their bones with no more power than the beggars buried beside them. This vision is at the core of the Stoic truth about wealth. It is useful as a tool, but disastrous as a master. A wise man carries it lightly, as a traveler carries a cloak, grateful for its warmth, but never mistaking it for life itself. Now consider how Marcus Aurelius viewed his own fortune. He commanded legions. He owned lands that stretched beyond the horizon. He could summon luxuries from every corner of the empire. And yet, in his private writings, he told himself none of these things defined him. He saw wealth not as a permanent gift, but as a loan from fortune, one that could be reclaimed at any moment. And so, he practiced detachment. He reminded himself that the soul shrinks when it clings to what it cannot keep. In a world where men measured their worth by estates, jewels, and power, Marcus measured his worth by his ability to govern desire, to remain steady whether fortune gave or took. This discipline was not a denial of life. It was freedom. For the man who needs little cannot be enslaved by loss. Even in our modern world, filled with glowing screens, endless advertisements, and promises of joy in every purchase. The Stoic truth echoes with the same force it carried 2,000 years ago. If your happiness depends on what can be stolen, taxed, or erased by a market crash, then you are not free. But if your happiness rests on your own disciplined mind, you walk unshaken through both poverty and prosperity. Marcus Aurelius teaches us a truth that cuts against everything consumer culture sells us. Wealth cannot buy freedom. Freedom is the absence of fear. Freedom is the mastery of desire. Freedom is the calm acceptance of what lies beyond our control. Imagine him again in his camp. The night is cold, soldiers huddle by fires, weary from battles and uncertain of tomorrow. And in the flicker of candlelight, the emperor writes words not meant for any audience but for himself. Words reminding him that wealth and fame are distractions, that death strips away all titles, that time consumes all monuments, that the only treasure worth guarding is the integrity of the soul. These words, scratched into wax by the hand of a weary emperor, travel across centuries to reach us. They whisper that the pursuit of wealth without virtue is not success, but slavery, a prison that chains the spirit to endless hunger. But the pursuit of virtue transforms even modest means into abundance. And so the question reaches us today: are we any different from those merchants in the Roman Forum, chasing more, fearing loss, convinced that without possessions life is incomplete? Or can we, like Marcus, step aside from the crowd and remind ourselves that everything external is fleeting, but mastery of the mind endures? To live stoically is not to reject wealth entirely, but to put it in its proper place as a servant, never as a master, as a tool for justice, generosity, and duty, but never as an idol for vanity or pride. Wealth is meant to be carried lightly, enjoyed without clinging, and surrendered without despair. The Stoic truth about wealth is this: it is measured not in coins, but in choices, not in possessions, but in freedom. Marcus Aurelius stands as the timeless guide, reminding us that the richest man is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. And so I ask you now, as Marcus once asked himself, what truly belongs to you? Not your house, not your bank account, not even your reputation, for all of these can be taken in a moment. What remains is your mind, your discipline, your courage to endure. That is wealth no thief can steal, no empire can tax, and no disaster can erase. So when you hear the Stoic truth about wealth, remember this: to own the world is nothing if the world owns you, but to master yourself is everything. Imagine the markets of Rome fading into silence. Imagine the palaces crumbling into dust. Imagine all the coins of gold melting into the earth. And then imagine the soul that remains calm and unshaken. That is true wealth, and it is waiting not in banks or markets, but in the quiet dominion of your own mind. And if Marcus Aurelius could hold this truth while seated on the throne of the most powerful empire on earth, then surely we too can hold it in the midst of our own restless age. Learning as he did, that fortune may give and fortune may take, but the mind disciplined by virtue remains unbroken, untouchable, and eternally free.